Hello, my name is Jim. This is my podcast, The Bloody Vegans. You're very welcome to it. Each week I'll be travelling ever deeper into the world of veganism, discovering along the way a multitude of viewpoints from the political and ethical to the practical. I'll be doing this through a series of conversations, each aiming to further illuminate my understanding and hopefully yours of all things plant-centric. So last week we had a bit of an extravaganza, didn't we? We got to listen to Fiona Oakes live at Reading Vegan Festival from last year. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that, I would thoroughly recommend that you do, because it's super relevant today. And in fact, I think 2020 has brought some of Fiona's words into sharp relief. So well worth listening. And as I said last week, if you can, do donate to Tower Hill Stables. It's www.towerhillstables.org/donate. All help will be gratefully received. Fiona and Martin do an incredible job down there. Some 500 plus animals rescued that they look after on a daily basis. So if you can, please help. So this week, moving on. This week is a little bit different again, actually, but we're back to the kind of the conversational form. However, I thought this week we'd have a little chat with my wife, Kate. It's been mentioned a couple of times on the podcast, and we've had some discussions about various aspects of veganism and how it's our journey and our home life and all those kind of things. But I thought, let's have a conversation with Kate herself. So we're going to chat about all sorts of things, really. We talk about vegan inclusivity in the workplace. And for anyone who is an employer looking to make their workplace a little bit more inclusive, there's a fantastic business called Vegucation Consultation, run by Laura Chepner. In a previous episode of The Bloody Vegans, you can listen to Laura talking about vegucation, particularly in schools, but she also consults for businesses who want to make their workspace a little bit more inclusive for us vegan folks. So we talk a little bit about the workplace, and we also talk about nurseries and parenting and all kinds of other bits and pieces. So without further ado, here's a conversation between me and my wife, Kate Moore.
Come home and you said you've been watching Netflix documentaries, one of which was Cowspiracy, and you said it had made an impact and that I should watch it because you think I'd also get something from it. So that night, I believe, we sat and you watched it again and I watched it for the first time, I think.
I think that's right.
Or did I watch it on my own?
I think I watched it again.
I think you did. I think it was that night because you were very keen for me to see it as soon as possible. So I watched it that night and was blown away. And we talked about it and what we'd taken from it and how we felt about what we'd watched and heard, and then basically mutually agreed to go vegan pretty much overnight. I think we had some bit of cheese and a bit of milk left in the fridge. So I said, I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to eat that. But once that's gone, we just won't buy any more. We don't eat a lot of meat anyway. Didn't have any fish in the house. So it was pretty much cold turkey. Excuse the pun.
I remember you getting halfway through that milk though and not wanting to drink it.
Did I?
Yeah, I think there was.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, there was milk left, and I remember you getting a bit more and more queasy as the bottle went down. And you were a big milk.
I was a huge milk drinker. I got through an awful lot of milk. It was like 6 pints in every couple of days. Just lots of cereal, really milky teas, milky coffees. So the milk part I was a little bit not concerned about, but thought that would be the most difficult part. I remember trying almond milk or was it maybe soya? I was like, oh, I don't know if I can't imagine eating that on my cereal or putting that in my tea. So it took a couple of tries, but then it's not as if I hankered after milk again. I just eventually just got used to the different taste and it didn't bother me. And now it just feels normal. It did feel like someone kind of like opened a curtain and I'd seen a completely different world. It sounds very dramatic, but it genuinely did feel like that I'd learned all these things that you kind of know that these things are going on in the world. It's bizarre, like, deforestation, a lot of the environmental impact, but I don't think you know the scale of it because you're never told the scale of it.
No.
So you don't learn that anywhere. You don't get taught that anywhere, and you don't really see it. It's not made public knowledge. It's not talked about because it's so controversial, and because there's so many huge companies making money out of it. So it's not the line that's towed. So I've never really come across it that way. And it was so blatant and impactful and straight down the line. I can't imagine anybody watching that documentary and coming away from it not convinced, personally.
Loads of people do, though, don't they, with that one? They watch it, and I think there's lots of... I've heard lots of people say they've sort of... I got halfway through and it was...
I don't understand that.
It was a bit much.
At what point? What? Because it's just too much for them to handle. They don't want to hear it, or because they're just thinking they're actually just genuinely bored.
I'd equate it to, I suppose, like anything in life. Like if you're trying to challenge sort of deep held and deep sort of told what you believe to be true, stuff from when you were a kid. And if that's the only voice that you've heard saying it, you could easily say, wow, it's probably a bit far-fetched. They've probably got an agenda when they've made it. And I imagine it's not quite like that. And you can sort of dumb it down a bit, can't you?
No. I don't.
You can if you don't want to believe it, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then I can't. Are there actually people out there that they're not open to believing anything else? And that's maybe it's very naive of me to say that, but
well, no, I think it's just quite.
It feels like you need to be open.
You just approached it quite logically, I think, but.
Well, yeah, I just felt like there wasn't any other way to approach it. I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't unsee it. Like it was.
Yeah, but then I always think that we ignore tons of stuff, though, don't we? Like there's loads of things that we should and could be doing a better job on.
What, genuinely as vegans?
No, not just as
or
vegans,
just
but just in life generally. You think every time I open up social media, there's something else that I think, oh my God, like I didn't realise that was going on. Or there's a lot of information out there now, and I think I personally, anyway, this is probably just me being weak, but I think if you tuned into all of it and acted upon every single piece at once, as you heard it, as it was, incontrovertible truth, and some of it is, you'd struggle to do anything else. You'd sort of have to. The whole, and maybe this is the case, but the whole of what you know to be society would collapse. Like you'd quit your job, you wouldn't buy anything ever again. You'd probably stop paying your council tax because you'd found out where it had gone to, and then
that might not be a bad thing.
But it might. No,
the state the world is in at the moment.
No, I think it's probably what we need, but it's
that's pretty extreme. But I felt like in the case of that documentary and other ones as well that I watched after that, Forks Over Knives, What the Health, it felt like that was accessible change. There was things in that you could easily implement in your life. It didn't take a lot to make a big impact by making, in my opinion, very small changes to your day-to-day lifestyle. Basically, just change what you eat. just a starting point. That's not being vegan. That's not leading a vegan lifestyle necessarily, but that it makes such a big difference. And it's really not difficult. It's so not difficult. That's all I hear is it's just too hard. You know, I can't give that up. I can't give this up. I'd miss that too much. It's like, really, but how can you still feel that way after watching something like that and putting your taste buds over a life? And all the environmental impact is just astonishing for the Western palate, and it completely just baffles me. When I was 3 years ago, I was exactly the same. That's what I still can't get my head around that, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's what still, it only took a couple of hours worth of very powerful filmmaking to make me change my entire view on life, and which it is possible, but it does. But I can't imagine being on the other side of it again now. I can't imagine being on the side of people saying that. I can't get on that level anymore. So I just kind of sort of laugh if someone says that. It's like, yeah, well, and I think I'm not very confrontational with it. I won't argue with them on it. Because I get asked that a lot. I get asked, you know, why did you become a vegan? And I say exactly the same story. And I recommend the documentaries. And I've had people watch them and said, well, I've watched half of it. Actually, I suppose, harking back to your point, I've watched half of it, and I'm just gonna stop eating. I'm gonna stop eating steak. But I don't think my family would. I mean, we couldn't go fully vegan because, you know, my husband or the kids wouldn't. They couldn't give up meat, I really like cheese. I was like, well, that's kind of beside the point. I feel like it's all or nothing. You can't be a part-time vegan, in my opinion. You can't just give up a bit. You got to be all in.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a little bit makes a difference, but what's the point in just giving up one type of meat? Just give up all the meat then. Why do you have to have pork? Why do you have to eat a pig if you can go without eating a cow? Why is a pig any better? Why should they die and a cow stay alive? It's just bad. It's strange to me that people just can't be affected by watching those documentaries. And then obviously the more you go down that rabbit hole, the more you find out about it. I'm not quite like you. I'm not good with the research. I just went on a gut feeling. I don't read an awful lot about it. I follow, obviously, my social media is a vegan social media bubble. So I get like my plant-based news and my veg news, and, you know, I get information from them, but I don't seek it out as much as I probably should. I'm not particularly informed, educated vegan. I'm not fully vegan. I don't live a fully vegan lifestyle. I feel bad about that every day. It's difficult to be a perfect one.
Yeah. Well, I think but then the definition sort of, as far as is, was it practicable, and you know, so there is an element of imperfection in the definition. But I don't know, it'd be interesting to get your view on it. I struggle with I agree with you on everything you said there about there's, you know, like to your point, somebody says to you, well, I've given up this, and you think, internally there's a dialogue going brilliant.
Congratulations.
Well done. You've given up, you know. I eat a lot less beef now.
That. A lot less.
I eat a lot less than I used to.
I only eat fish like maybe once or twice a week.
The cow's only a bit dead now.
Yeah, you've only killed 4 fish then, not none.
Yeah, like, well, times by 12
not even 4. What am I talking about?
Of the bycatch. But yeah, so I struggle with that because I've got that internal dialogue going on where I want a sort of I want to be absolutist about it. But then to your point just a second ago, I then sort of check myself in this internal dialogue. I am paying attention to this other person, by the way, whilst I'm having this internal dialogue. But I then check myself and think, well, somebody who was far more forensic over their lifestyle than I have been, would pick out, I don't know, the particular plastic injection in the toy that I'd bought, our son, and that plastic contained a byproduct of X. Now, I didn't seek it out and go, which plastic's got some pigs in, but at the same time, I didn't research every single. So those stones could be cast at me, sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm aware of that too.
So I sort of then think, well, I can't really have a go at this person. And actually, to your other point, you go back 3 years and 10 days or whatever it was. Well, it's more than that now. 3 years and 2 months.
Yeah.
And I would probably say the same. Confronted with a vegan at the time, I might have said, well, I don't eat that much meat now, like I only have it, it's only once every meal now, actually, that I'm
it's only once a day
that I'm eating meat. So I don't know. But then I sort of think, are we going to affect any change if we're not radical enough and if we're not brave enough to confront? But then I sound like I'm on some sort of rambling diatribe here, which I kind of am. But and I'll get your view in a minute. I'll shut up. But I was just on Twitter earlier, and there was somebody who'd sort of described themselves as an intersectional feminist, and they were in a discussion that, to be fair, was had no vegans involved in it, but a fairly vocal vegan had inserted themselves into this conversation and sort of said to them, well, you're not vegan, and if you consider yourself an intersectional feminist, then you should take a look at the dairy industry. And they got sort of piled in on by a lot of other people who were in this conversation, sort of virtually piled in on to sort of say, what are you talking about? What's a cow got to do with feminism? And what's the dairy industry got to do with it? And cows. And there was just memes after memes and people just piling in on this vegan.
Wow.
And I kind of thought, they're right to the person is absolutely right. The vegan who interjected, I agree with that viewpoint that once we stop seeing ourselves as above or superior to any other creature,
we're fellow beings.
Then you start thinking, well, the females in the dairy industry are subjugated in such horrific ways. So I kind of agree with that point. But those people weren't necessarily prepared to hear it just yet. So was that the right tactic to get to them at that stage, particularly in 240 characters? It's just so complex. What is effective activism? So after all of that, that's my question.
What is your question?
What is effective activism, do you think?
Well, I think what you're doing is effective activism. I think having conversations rather than having confrontations is effective. I think if you externalize that internal dialogue, you would not get the same response necessarily. I think it depends also who you're talking to. It depends on the situation. If you are confronted about it and someone wants to get into an argument with you, then by all means go for it, because there is no argument against it, in my opinion. But I think activism is you can be just loads of forms of it. I know you cover it in your podcasts. You can, get out there and protest with signs, or you can do it through your business. You can do it through education with the young, and you can just do it with having conversations with people that are in that world and in that industry, which is what you do, and just bring that to the forefront. I think it bringing information. I think the information, like I mentioned, that we've found in those documentaries isn't readily available. It is, but you have to look for it. You have to find it. It's getting talked about a bit more now, especially with the recent sort of coronavirus. But I think I I think activism doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be kind of rude or sort of brash. It can be informal. It can just be having simple conversations. Learning is a huge one. I think just learning through other people, other businesses, other perspectives, and then putting that out there for vegan and non-vegans to listen to is, I think, one of the most important ways of doing it, and one of the most important forms of activism, because it's gentler and people can dip in and out. They can take from it what they want, as much of it or as little. And I know that contradicts my earlier point where I said, if not all in, it doesn't, what's the point? But I think, I think any information that's made more available to people is important and a very impactful form of activism in itself. I don't feel like I'm not an activist, really. I'd like to be, but I'm not, because I don't have a podcast. I don't protest. I don't run any sort of vegan businesses. I'm not actively involved in the vegan community necessarily. So I feel like I should be doing more. But at the same time, I have the odd conversation with friends, or I have the conversation with people from work and family. And I guess that's, in some very, very small, tiny form, a bit of activism, because I'm spreading a bit of the message, in inverted commas. And I'm giving some people some little bits of information that they might not have known, that I'm just basically responding to any sort of curiosity. That's all I do. But
I wouldn't downplay that, though. So I think it's, I sometimes think,
I'm not converting anybody.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that some other forms of activism, like you mentioned, like this podcast, I'm not sure that it's a form of activism insofar as I don't know what the reach is beyond other vegans. So if the conversation is for vegans, by vegans, delivered to vegans.
It's not delivered just to vegans.
Well,
I know people that aren't vegan that listen to it.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
I don't know anyone who is vegan who listens to it.
Well, you know more vegan people than I do. That's the difference.
Yeah.
I don't know any.
I don't know that you don't know any.
I know very few.
I don't know. There's a couple of people I've spoken to who've said, if you're only ever speaking to vegans, who are you converting? But I also wouldn't downplay that by your very sort of, by anybody who's vegan's very existence, they are, every time they pick up a vegan menu in amongst a group of non-vegans, they elicit a conversation, whether they...
I've been in those situations where I've been quite someone sat next to me and I've been surprised when they've ordered something off the vegan menu. And that makes me so happy. It's a really nice surprise. I haven't coerced them into it. I haven't, just kind of slid it in front of them. I've just sort of, they've asked me what I'm going to eat. I've maybe bigged up the vegan menu a little bit.
And said, I'll try it.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go for that. I'm like, oh. And there's a little I do a little happy dance inside whenever somebody agrees just to try a vegan meal, off a vegan menu, or have a bite of what I'm eating, and then if they say they like it, I'm like, yes. Even though I didn't make that, that's still a big win.
There's
for
so
me.
much, I don't know about you, there's so much pressure on that. When you recommend something to somebody.
Yeah. It has to be good.
Or they pick your choice on the menu. You say,
that's the thing. It's good for a minute, but then you're like, they've actually got to actually like it now. And then they've spent £15 on a meal that they might not enjoy. And then they'll be like, I'm not ever going to have a vegan meal again. Oh, shit.
When they do the, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's all right. It's better than other ones.
It tastes quite similar to a burger, doesn't it?
God.
You think, oh no. They're going to tell everybody, because when they're out of your company,
yeah,
going to tell everyone I had a vegan meal. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was awful.
You know, that's going to happen.
Don't listen to Kate. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She eats cardboard.
But that perception surely...
That's never actually happened, though, I don't think.
No, to be fair, I think I imagine that situation will play itself out more than it has. I think there's probably only been 1 or 2 situations that I can think of, and usually it's where I'm eating something that, like...
It's been cobbled together.
Well, it's either been cobbled together or it's like, because I'm not the most... I've got some interesting food combinations sometimes
when you're really hungry.
When I'm really hungry. But...
aren't we all?
Yeah, but rarely if it's like a restaurant situation, it's something nice, where it's... And particularly, I think there's so much... And I feel like I talk about this every week at the moment, but there's so much vegan junk food out there that's sort of like the kind of the appetizer for people. Like
it's the entryway.
The gateway
drug.
The gateway drug. Yeah, like...
It's true.
Taste this Moving Mountains burger. Like, I defy anyone to say it's not nice. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a prime one.
Yeah.
That's one that people have luckily chosen off a vegan menu with me, and I'm like, I know this is a winner. I'm all right here. I know that they're going to love this, to be fair. So it's normally a burger because I eat so many burgers. So
you don't eat that many burgers.
I feel like I do.
It's just the obvious choice when you're in a restaurant.
When you're in your restaurant, because it's on every vegan menu pretty much. So, and it's, especially when you're out, you feel like you want to treat yourself.
So I want to move into, because we've just been talking about chatting to non-vegans. So, like, the workplace is an area of, particularly of your life that I'm less aware of than the rest of it, obviously, and vice versa. So the experience of a vegan in a non-vegan work environment, I've certainly got my own, but I'm intrigued to your experiences.
Well, I work in an office with a couple of 100 people, I believe. And as far as I'm aware, I am one of maybe 2 or 3 vegans in the building, one of whom has just left. So I think I might be now down to 2, and I don't actually know who the other one is. So it might just be me.
And that's out of what, like a couple of
hundred? Appallingly, I don't know the number of people that work in my building.
That's about right, though. I think it's 1% of the population or less.
Well, that makes sense then. So it is me, or potentially 2.
You
and
the other. That's That's it, right?
So yes, it's fine. It's I wish there were more of us. I talk about it a lot in my team, which I'm sure my team are very happy about. They are all pretty intrigued by it. I have a lot of questions of people trying things, asking for recommendations. We have a subsidised canteen, which is brilliant. And for a while, it was pretty good. I had somebody actually somebody in the team a couple of years ago, or a few more than that, before I became vegan, we had a vegan team member. And she was pretty vocal about it. She talked about it an awful lot. At the time, I'll admit, I didn't even know what being vegan was. I didn't know what she was talking about, really. I didn't. And I asked a few questions. I was quite intrigued. And she was really good at kind of, the people that we have in our kitchens are fantastic. And they're very, you can have a chat with them and you can talk to them and, you can see them every day. And they were very receptive to some of her ideas and her suggestions. And she was always asking she asked what was in things. She asked if they could make a vegan version of things. And I didn't really know you could do that. Like I just kind of thought what they made and what they put out on the hot plates and in the salad bar every day was what you got. But they were starting to sort of respond and they were giving her these options. And then fast forward a couple of years later when I became vegan, I've kind of forgotten that because she'd since left. And now I'm in the kind of situation that she was in. And there was one occasion where I specifically asked them if the dessert would be vegan. It was like a pineapple upside down cake or something with custard. And he wrote back in an email and said, "Yep, it's going to be vegan, so it's available. You can eat it. It'll be absolutely fine." And the custard. I was like, amazing. Okay, this is the first time I had like a fully vegan. It was like a butternut squash curry and this lovely pudding. And I got down there and I asked for the vegan curry. They had to go out the back and make it, like get it for me separately. It wasn't available on the pass thing. So I had to hold up a queue of the entire office, because it was like after like a town hall, and wait for mine to come out. And then I got down to the pudding and I looked at it and I was like, I can tell by looking at it that that's not vegan. I can see the butter oozing out of it. Like, that's not. So I was like, I'll have some of the cake, please. But I thought, I can't ask again just to double check that it's vegan. I can't hold this queue up anymore. So I took it. He went, "Do you want custard?" I went, "Yes." Thinking back to the email, thinking, he told me it was vegan. He told me the whole thing was vegan, so I'm going to have it. Walked back to my table. I ate the curry. It was delicious. And I had one spoonful of the sponge. I went, "That is absolutely not vegan. I can taste the butter. I can taste the eggs." And I was really gutted, because I love my pudding. And I thought I'd made some sort of small win and little victory, that I'd found that they managed to make one meal vegan for me and make sure I could eat something that day. And I know I don't have to have the dessert, but I was just so close. And I felt like I'd been lied to as well. And this sounds very dramatic maybe, but I'm like, why lie? Why tell me it's going to be vegan and then let me eat it potentially, knowing it's not? Why not just tell me it's not and give me something else? Or just tell me there's nothing for you, but don't tell me it is. And then let me eat it. That's not fair. Like, but it goes back, I think, because it's not an intolerance, because I'm not going to be sick if I eat it, because it's not something that's going to make me ill, because it's not, I don't know, maybe, dare I say, even like it's not a religious or a cultural thing. It's not, I don't think it doesn't seem like it's important. I don't think that was their conscious decision to, I'm going to screw her over and make this, I'm going to tell her it's vegan, but it's not. And got a little cackle in the background. I don't think it was that at all. But the fact that they didn't care enough to be honest about it, or they forgot, or whatever it was, just made me feel like, well, that's not fair. I mean, it's important to me. It's something that I thought you were starting to sort of listen to. So there's been a few exchanges. I've been on, just sort of talking to the kind of the head chef and just saying, could we look at some more options? Because I know I'm not the only one. Could there be some more salad options? Could there be at least one hot option? Could there be some deli options? So I've got something to choose from every day. So it's been listened to be fair, but it's not great. And some of the stuff I've eaten hasn't been brilliant. Or I've actually ended up going down there at lunchtime and said, can I have the vegan option? And they're like, oh, it's not actually available. I'm like, what? So what can I? So that's it then. So I have to have salad then. So why isn't the hot option available when you told me it would be? And they put like a menu out every week and said it was going to be on there. And or they've run out of vegan cheese, or they said there was one issue was they said, vegan cheese is just quite expensive. So I'm like, right, but you buy normal cheese, and I mean, I'm not going to eat a load of it. I can for a couple of slices of vegan cheese to put in a sandwich.
Or make something vegan that doesn't include cheese.
Well, all that.
There's
not everything has to have cheese in it. Like, so I don't know if I really made a point there, but it feels a bit difficult. Like I'm sort of pushing this huge rock up a hill type thing, just to sort of get my little voice heard, my 1% voice heard. And I've just basically I've just taken my own lunch. Because it's easier.
But that's the thing though, isn't it? It's like going back to the point of like activism, and it's in that sort of microcosm is the sort of the activist thing to do would almost be to, I'm going to boycott
the canteen. Yeah.
I'm going to make a huge noise about, I don't mind how
signs
long.
up I'm gonna
I don't mind how long this queue is
mini
held
protest. Yeah.
but I'm getting an option for lunch.
That's the thing. I feel embarrassed to stand there and ask. I feel embarrassed if there's like even a couple of people behind me, even if I'm just with my team, even though they expect it of me now, I'm going to go and ask because I know I will and I want to and I need to. But there's people there that don't know me and don't know I'm vegan. I'm like kind of trying to do it. I'm kind of lean over the counter and go, is there anything vegan? I'm whispering it. Like I'm ashamed, like I'm embarrassed. And why should I be? But I feel like I don't like, if it's inconveniencing somebody else, it makes me uncomfortable. And I don't like that about it. I think that's a me thing, obviously. That's something that I have an issue with. Maybe it's like just a confidence thing. Confidence in my beliefs and in my ethics and my decisions and my chosen lifestyle. But if I feel like I'm inconveniencing somebody by asking for, if you got any vegan butter back there, or if you got a jacket potato because there's nothing else, and just with beans, then thanks. I just feel like if you have to go and get something out the back for me, that's an effort for somebody, and that's going to annoy somebody behind me who I don't know, who doesn't understand why I'm asking and why it's important.
It's usually not unfounded though. Like there's usually like an eye roll, or you can sense that there's a tension.
There's a tension. There's a strange atmosphere immediately.
Yeah, because I can think of examples where I've been in similar situations and I've asked for something, and like you say, probably adopted the same. I don't think it's just you. Adopted the same hushed tones, and then the person's been like super accommodating.
Yeah,
and it's instantly put me at ease and made me feel. Or they might have said, they might not even be vegan themselves, but might have gone, my brother's vegan actually, and yeah, I totally know where you're coming from. I can get you that, and it sort of it puts you at ease straight away. But to your point, I think, from my experience, not trying to explain what your sort of your story about it, I think. I've been in those situations that you describe and felt there's a tension in the air. People behind, and maybe you load it with it's because I'm vegan, and it's probably not. It's more just because the people behind you are like, look, we've only got an hour here. Do you want to hurry this up? Yeah. And the person behind the counter is like, look, there's a massive queue. I need to get to the back of this queue. Like, I don't want to go and get you vegan cheese or whatever.
No, exactly.
So can't you just eat something else? Like
bloody awkward vegans.
Yeah, and I think you're also right that there's a bit of a sense of, you mentioned this sort of lack of care with the pineapple upside down cake example.
Maybe I'm making a massive meal of it, but it stayed with me because it's really bugged me.
I think it's a really good example of something that's played out in like really day-to-day examples, like a dessert counter at work, right through into kind of every aspect of anything you mentioned to do with veganism. That it's almost like, well, it's a choice. It's just stop being awkward. Basically,
yeah. And I still find myself referring to myself as the awkward vegan. As if people come along, because I've got a mug that you bought me that's got vegan, or I am vegan, or I love vegan, or something written on it. And if somebody comes along to talk to me in the office and mentions it, I'm like, yeah, that's me, the awkward vegan. I'm like, hang on, why am I saying that? I'm not awkward. It's like, why am I downplaying my decision to be vegan? Why am I immediately making it negative and like it's abnormal? And like you say, sometimes I have that, but I have a response to go, oh no, like you say, I've got friends that are vegan, or no, and they start talking to me about a conversation about Game Changers when it came out, and it's actually sparked conversations rather than I anticipate they're going to be like, that they're going to feel differently or see me in a different way or in a worse way, because I always anticipate they're going to have a negative reaction if someone new finds out that I'm vegan. I'm reluctant to tell people still after 3 years, even with it feels like it's way more popularized now, and it's more in the in the public eye. It's talked about more. Although that, again, like I said, it might still be my social media bubble, but it feels like it's there and there's more options out there and people are trying it and people are talking about it, I still feel like I'm apologetic about it and I'm uncomfortable about it because in some way it'll inconvenience people. And like we've talked about with social situations, not just at work, but just out for dinner with friends, or when you're invited, as soon as you get an invite to go out for dinner, or worse, this sounds not worse, but to go to somebody's house for dinner, or go and stay away for a weekend with a group of friends. I don't have vegan friends. I don't have anybody really who's fully vegan. A lot of people, like I said, testing it out. But so every time I go out, have a social situation, I'm in a non-vegan group. I am the only vegan there. So I'm already thinking, I bet they're thinking, oh my God, do they even want me there? Are they just inviting me to be polite because they don't want me to feel like I'm missing out on something? They're already worrying about what they're going to give me. They're already thinking I've got to cater for her. I've got to accommodate for her. I've got to buy different things. I've got to buy more expensive things because vegan things are more expensive than others. I've got to buy different milk. I've got something else that my office don't provide is non-vegan milk. There's none. There's none in the entire building. They provide free dairy milk to every kitchenette across the building. Semi-skimmed and skimmed, but no alternative milks, not even in the canteen, not any of the coffee machines, nowhere. I have to take in my own cartons of milk every day in order to have tea.
It's fascinating, isn't it, that you can get...
I've asked for it.
2 or 3 types of milk.
Yeah.
I've even seen in workplaces like, we're going to put lactose-free milk.
Yeah. There's all sorts.
But we're not going to bother with anything else.
You get lactose-free milk. There's Nespresso machines. There's milk frother machines, but there's no, there's everything to do with beverages that you can possibly think of. 8 different types of herbal tea.
Ways to, various methods
everything.
To prepare
they provide, but just one type of milk in order to use all of those milk preparation machines. Just cow's milk. That's the only milk. I've asked for it. My vegan friend who used to work with us got it. But then our kitchen team have changed multiple times since then. I've asked for it and I'm not getting it. I don't even get a response to my emails asking for it.
It's interesting though, you described like your pre-vegan understanding of that particular colleague and how and how I think you described it. Perhaps you didn't describe it to me on this, when we've just been chatting now. But in the past, you sort of said she was, she did fit the bill with the wider team of like the awkward vegan.
Oh God, yeah.
And sort of was described as that. Oh God, she's gonna challenge something or
and
pick something.
We
up.
felt embarrassed when she went up to the guys in the kitchen and said, "Can you make?" Yeah, it was pancake day. That was a specific. And she asked for vegan pancakes. And we were like, Kate, no, don't. Oh, she's going to go and ask. She's actually going to go up there and ask. And it's awful to think that it felt like because she was being awkward, we were going to be seen as an awkward team off the back of that. That we felt embarrassed for her and because of her.
She was blazing the trail though. Cause
she was.
Like you say, she got the pancakes and
she got the pancakes.
Milk and she
got the milk.
Made the kitchen perhaps a little bit more, even if it's for a short period of time, a little bit more inclusive.
It's true. The head chef at the time, I remember him coming out when we were at the past, and she said, he said, "I've actually, thanks to you, I'm making a lot more dishes now. I'm not using cream or butter or milk in things that I don't think need them. I'm just leaving them out, and everybody can have them." And we were like, "That's true." So he was being more experimental. He was trying new things because it was a new challenge for him. And he'd never been asked to do that before. But even at that point, she was only one of 2 still within the entire building that we were aware of and that the guys in the kitchen told us about. Like, we only know of one other who asked for vegan options every day. So it's only ever really been the 2. But like you said, she did blaze a trail. She was a better vegan than me. She was way more of a vegan activist than I ever.
Better.
Well, she was more obvious. She was a bit more, blatant. She was a blatant vegan. But then again, she was part-time. She admitted that because sometimes
I think that was the bit where she lost a bit of credibility. I remember you saying that. I think it was the pancake incident.
Pancakes?
Because I think if I remember rightly, your problem at that particular incident was she'd held up this queue and had this whole conversation. And then, was it like Milky Bar spread or something? There was some sort of chocolate spread she'd popped on top of it that wasn't vegan.
I think, she did that as well. She used to go and ask for a vegan meal or go and get a nice salad or ask for like specific things for a salad. And then she used to bring in her own then she used to put Caesar dressing all over it. And we're like, hang on a minute. That's sort of negated the entire meal that you've just held up a queue and asked them to specifically make for you. So that it was a little bit confusing.
She lost a bit of credibility.
Yeah, she was a bit confused, her message sometimes. But for the most part, she did, in a way, introduced it, at least to our team, the kind of whole concept of it. And then I came kind of out with it a couple of years later, and I think they were probably going, oh no, there's another one.
Yeah, but I think I think this is why you're not a bad vegan, because you have tried to learn from her, and I don't think you can quantify what's bad and what's good anyway. But in this regard, because it's everybody has a different interpretation. But it sounds like anyway, you're trying to adapt from the bits that you saw that she did that were unsuccessful. Mm. The bits where you knew that she had that reaction on that team. Mm. And like you said, I think from what you have described, there's 3 or 4 people on the verge.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think anybody had, like when you told your story about how you became vegan, it was because of Cowspiracy and Forks Over Knives, not because of her. Mm. So you could argue, well, it didn't really have an impact on you, but it had a place because it made the organisation, the sort of the structure, the formal, the power, the power structure that was your place of work. It was the right approach to get them to listen. Yeah. To change the milk and to make a different curry and different pancakes and stuff.
But it's interesting though, but the audience has changed now in that she got a response, she got some action, she got a bit of inclusivity from it. Whereas now the audience has changed. It's just taken a different person behind the scenes. And I'm not getting that reaction. I don't know if it's the way I'm approaching it. I don't know if it's because I'm a bit more softly, although sometimes some of my emails probably aren't. But I'm not getting the reaction she got because maybe the person who I'm reaching out to isn't in the same, they're not as open. They're not in, they're not the same sort of mindset as kind of the person that she was to kind of get through to in a way. Not get through to, that sounds a bit odd, but have an honest, open conversation with and get to see her side of things and be a bit more flexible and open to challenges and stuff like that. And I'm not quite getting that yet. I get a glimmer of it every now and again. But it doesn't feel wholly like I'm accepted, that's an acceptable, I don't know how to sort of say it. Like,
it's not worthy of them making an adjustment.
Exactly.
Because it's a personal choice.
Yes. Yeah. Precisely. Because it's not affecting my health. If I could eat a cheese sandwich, I could have a beef curry, but I'm choosing not to. Therefore, they can choose not to give me a vegan option. It's not going to affect me. It's not going to have a detrimental effect on my health. It's not a risk. I'm not allergic, but yeah, it's not. So that therefore it just feels like it's just not seen as important. It's not seen as something that has to be accommodated
like that's
for.
Changing though, like not necessarily in that.
Not necessarily in my setting, but in other places it definitely is. In more.
Well, there's been a couple of like legal cases, isn't there, where somebody has won the right for their sort of conscientious objection to doing something as a result of their veganism has been, recognised legally. And then I think about Laura Chepner, who primary vegetation and now vegetation consultation, who is literally forging this business of helping businesses to
it's incredible
to see what they should be doing to be inclusive for that particular group. And I think as the number grows, that will become a need that businesses need to think about, and everywhere will need to think about. It's interesting, switching tack slightly, but talking about change. And I've talked about it on the podcast before. It'd be interesting to get your take as his mum, but thinking about nurseries and formal settings with childcare, how they've responded, and it's probably it is far more favourable and accommodating from my experience of it than a workplace.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's sort of borne out? That would be your experience of it?
Yeah, absolutely. The nursery that Arthur goes to have been incredibly receptive, very accommodating of it, bearing in mind that he's the first vegan child or baby to attend that nursery. It's a new nursery. They've only been open for about 5 years, I believe, but it's the first time they've had that situation, and they were brilliant about it. They asked me to come in. They had sat down and had a chat with me. They asked me what he eats at home. I provided them with a list of foods and snacks and where I buy them from, the brands that I use, the things that he likes, the things that he's not sure on. And they were fantastic. They bought in specific soy formula for him when he first started, when he was still on milk, which they hadn't done before. They were happy to do that. They were happy to have the conversation. They were excited by it. That's what they told me. They said, this is exciting. This is an education for us. We're going to be learning through you and through Arthur. And we have lots of other children who have food requirements, and they have intolerances, and they have allergies, and obviously foods and things that they culturally aren't allowed to have. But we're always learning, but this is again a whole new challenge for us. And they've been brilliant. And as Arthur moved away, obviously from formula and is moved into sort of the toddler groups and the older classes, he's accommodated for every meal. They do sort of, anytime they do baking, they make sure it's vegan. They do obviously vegan muffins. They did vegan pancakes on pancake day, so Arthur can have what everybody else is having, which is something that was really important to me. I don't want him to feel like he was left out at all. I don't want him to feel like he wasn't getting any treats. If they had all ice cream, I want him to have ice cream. If they had custard with their apple crumble, I want him to have custard, because it's available. It's possible. There's no reason for him not to have it, and it's not going to hurt the other children if they have vegan versions of that. And so it's trying to just make, and the nursery are beginning to see that. They see that now after a year and a bit, that if they just make it vegan for everybody, then no child has to miss out. So they've been fantastic. They've been great. And I think you can't say no when it's children. You can't deny them that. It's
when you're paying, I think, as well.
And that, yeah, of course.
You definitely can't.
But he's only been to one child's party so far, which you came to.
Yes.
And that was a joint party of the children of one of my very close friends who knew Arthur was vegan and was amazing.
Yeah,
and
she was brilliant.
Created a whole separate vegan party bag for Arthur with different cakes, different lollies. Made sure like he had something to take home, that he didn't miss out on anything. And it helps that I knew her and I knew the mum.
Yeah.
But that I'm hoping And I'm hoping Arthur will continue to be invited to parties. I don't want him to be seen like I feel as the awkward vegan child who we have to cater for and do something different for. And, you know, I don't want to go, I'm not going to bother inviting him because we have to go out and buy loads of more stuff. And it's just a nuisance.
I just hold out hope though that the kids, whether it's Arthur or other kids who've got other dietary requirements and bits and pieces, that they're so used to kids with dietary requirements that when they go home and they say, oh, I'm inviting Arthur and, you know, Delilah and, you know.
They will investigate. They will do what the nursery did. They will reach out to those parents but while they invite them, or put on the invite, what are your dietary requirements? Because even if it's not to cater for vegan kids, it's to cater for kids who have intolerances and who have allergies. They have to do that anyway as like a matter of course. So I think for that reason, if they're doing it for all the other kids anyway, hopefully they'll just do it for him. And there might be some stuff that can cover all bases. And they just hopefully will decide, we'll just get a vegan birthday cake then, because then everybody can have the same bit of cake.
I'm intrigued at that. And we won't get the answer here because we don't know any of them. But I'm intrigued as to if the other parents, because I think the nursery, like I say, I think they see that it's an experiment for them, which means it's a competitive advantage in the future. like being so the next parent who turns up, they can say, yeah, we totally know how to handle.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pull, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think as it continues to grow and goes beyond 1% and so on and so forth, that they're like, this is great, we'll be equipped to deal with something new now. Like the more diversity, more inclusion that they can promote in their sort of prospectus, the better. You know, they'd be delighted by that. So I get that they're into it, and we're paying them a nursery
we are paying
fee.
them for their services.
So I can understand that. And like a workplace, vice versa, they're sort of viewing it as, well, this costs us money, so no, we're not going to do it. But I'm intrigued as to, do the other parents know that when they're doing, I don't know, making cupcakes at nursery, that
do they know it's vegan?
Do they know it's vegan? And then just from my experiences of other people, friends, family that I've met who I've said, oh, that cake, that's vegan, it's amazing, you should try it, it's from Lola's Cupcakes or whatever.
Other vegan bakeries are available.
Loads of others are available, lots of.
But they are really good.
Yeah, the vegan bakeaway is a good one. Tiny Sarah's Cakes, you name it, there's loads of them. Should mention some more local ones.
Cockalico.
Yeah. Go through the list of amazing vegan bakers and patissiers. But this should turn into some sort of advert.
Sorry.
I feel I should be selling mattresses or something next. You've got to have a big podcast for mattresses. I'm not quite there yet.
And underwear.
Yeah, Me Undies or whatever they are. I've just given them a free advert. I don't even know if they're vegan. What was I saying?
Cut that out.
So I might leave it in. So yeah, these other parents, knowing the reaction of other people when I say, I've got this cake, it's amazing, and there's even if it's brilliant, at most you'll get, it's not bad actually. Like there's always an actually.
Or they're waiting to try it though.
Or they'll be like, no, I'm all right, thanks.
Because they think there's something wrong with it.
Because they think there's something missing, or that they're, you know, and I wonder, like, you know, people are obviously we all are protective over our children and we want them to have the best. And if your worldview is that they need to have, for whatever spurious reason, they need to have
weird reason,
dairy, and they need to have otherwise their bones are going to suddenly crumble in front of you, or they're going to, you know, have some horrendous calcium deficiency or something.
Yep.
Are those parents sat at home thinking, or have they just not heard? You know, I wonder what the nursery's approach is to.
Yeah, being open about that. I know that at one point they had to make a separate batch of cakes because there's a child that's allergic to soy.
Right.
So I don't know if they just get told, like their parents just get told that they had
cupcakes. Yeah.
To be honest. And their parents trust that they had the right type of cake. to suit their dietary requirements.
I wonder if there's ever been, or there will be, a furious parent who goes up there and says, I've just found out
Wow, that we had one of that Arthur's cupcakes.
that Arthur's been coming in here with without his dairy.
With his non-dairy, lower fat, lower cholesterol, healthier but just as tasty cakes.
And I want to make sure the
which
calcium,
my child thoroughly enjoyed.
the calcium's
by the way.
leached from their bones through excessive dairy consumption. I
don't know. That's a very good question. I don't know. I don't think so. And I'm hoping there won't be any
You'd like to
parents
think not, wouldn't you?
who would be that against it. But there are still a lot of people that if you, like you say, like I think you've taken stuff into work before and vegan stuff. And as soon as you mention vegan or put a label on it that says this is vegan, it's avoided. But you've also taken it in and not told people it's vegan. They've lapped it up and then you've gone,
Yeah.
oh, that was vegan. And they're like, eh? Really? That was really nice.
A colleague of mine has
You just
literally
don't
done that
tell
experiment.
them. They won't even know the difference. Yeah, you've
Yeah.
had people that have done those experiments and you've...
Yeah, 2 sets of identical cupcakes written vegan on one and non-vegan on the other, or not even non-vegan, just left it with no sign. The ones without the vegan label have been eaten. Everyone said they're amazing. And then later on it was like, oh yeah, these are vegan, by the way. Like, ingredients lists were out and stuff. We weren't trying to poison anyone.
Yeah,
right?
true,
Or,
yeah.
give anyone who's got a genuine, an
No, of
intolerance
course.
or something
No.
like.
They
But
They were
wasn't
sensible
anything
with it.
devious about it. But
No.
But it was just the word,
It's a bit of a social experiment.
just one word being missing from the same description made such a huge difference. And that the cake, the one that I referred to from Lola's, that was another example. Like I'd ordered a cake for somebody's birthday at work. This beautiful Lola's chocolate cupcake. No one knew what Lola's was. No, Lola's isn't all vegan anyway, but they just do a vegan cake.
Yeah.
So I popped it out and everybody absolutely went wild for it. Thought it was amazing. Where did you get this cake? All that kind of stuff. And, it's like, yeah, well, that's vegan. It was like, and there was almost like just complete and utter disbelief. Like,
yeah. How on earth could you make a cake that nice without any dairy or eggs?
Yeah.
Inconceivable to people.
But yeah, talking about kids, it is so deep though. Like the amount of stuff that we've come across as that's sort of not even, I was going to say thinly veiled, but it's not even veiled, just propaganda for the dairy industry. The book recently
Oh, yeah.
was was a fantastic example.
The Rodder's book.
What was that book called? I can't even remember.
Something about the cream.
Thief.
Big cream.
It was a cat, wasn't it?
It was a cat that stole.
Was it the
some
cat thief?
cream? The Great Cream Robbery. Something like that.
Was it?
Yeah, it was called something like that.
It's probably good that we've got it wrong, so we might get sued by Rodders.
We might well do. We
Not
have
that they're
mentioned
listening
Rodders
to
a lot of times.
obscure vegan podcasts, but
yeah, it was a book given to us secondhand.
and we were very grateful to the gifters of this book.
Absolutely.
I mean, they weren't intending on.
No, it was just in a pile
Inflaming any
of
rage.
books that they were that they were handing down, and then you started reading it at bedtime to Arthur the other evening, and you're like, "What the dickens is this?" And it turns out on the back it was a book made by Rodders to promote their crusted cream,
People who don't know, they're a clotted cream
Cornish-based.
manufacturer in Cornwall. Is
I
clotted
actually
cream
grew
a
up
thing around the
eating
world?
crusted cream. Yeah, oh my god.
But is it a thing like beyond?
Well, I don't know beyond Britain. It's a very
no
it's
idea.
quite a British thing, is it
There
not?
are a couple of people who listen to this who aren't in Britain, so
Okay,
I'm just in.
put it out there.
I wonder if a Canadian or an American listener could.
Well, they know what that is.
I don't know why we need to know really, but
I've eaten a lot of Rodders crusted cream in my day before being
clotted
vegan.
cream. Yeah.
It is delicious.
So anyway, sorry, you were telling the story
Well,
about this book. What happens in the book?
Well, essentially, there's a creamery. Is that what it's called? A place where you make cream.
I think it's called, in the book it was referred to as a creamery. I don't know if that's
creamery.
the official term.
Which strangely was it was manned by cows. They employed cow labourers to make.
I'd say they were more talented than labourers. They were chefs, apparently.
Well,
they had
okay.
hats and everything.
Did they? Well, I wasn't reading it, so you're probably best placed to tell this story. It felt like more of a factory sort of situation.
They were cows in aprons.
Oh,
So the cows had aprons and they had hats, chef's hats. So they were the notion was that the cows were. I assume that they were depriving their own young of the milk that their bodies had produced in order to feed them.
donning a chef's hat.
They were depriving them of that in order to manufacture
Cream for human beings.
Cream that could then be put onto a Devonshire
Lovely
scone
with some jam.
by humans.
And then the cats like cream.
So they tried to rob
So
it.
they tried to rob the place. And then...
They all became friends though, didn't they?
Well, at the end, they gave him a job or something, didn't they?
Yeah, so
The cows gave the cat some sort of job in the creamery.
They
Or
gave-
a year's supply of cream
he's
or
a
something.
taster.
Oh, he's a cream taster now.
So the cows, obviously not wishing to consume their own, secretions for their young,
Milk secretions.
they thought the best taster was a cat.
So they were all right making it,
Yeah.
but they'd never taste it.
Well,
happy to sell it.
I presume that they were tasting it before because they seemed to be talking about how wonderful it was. They knew it was fantastic cream.
See, that it's all completely fucked up.
Either way, I read this book to Arthur once, and then decided that was
We went, what the hell is this?
that was the end of that book.
We're never reading this ever again, and I promptly removed it from the house.
Well, I think we did also point out to him the cognitive dissonance throughout as I was reading it.
I think you actually used those two words as well.
What I told him about
You told him,
cognitive
our
dissonance.
2-year-old son. What's going on here, Arthur? Is an
The
obvious
dairy
case
industry is at a very young age
dissonance.
trying to co-opt you into thinking that cows willfully give their milk.
Yeah, and then work all day to churn it into...
It was really odd.
It was a strange book. It was a bit... And I don't think, obviously, if you weren't vegan, you wouldn't think anything of it, really,
No,
at all.
I don't think I would have done.
You just think, it's a story with lots of animals in it. You wouldn't even connect the cream to the cows.
I would have thought it was cute because I think we were probably told similar stories when we were young that make you think of farm. I'm reluctant to say farms because there's lots of great, veganic farms out there. But the animal agriculture was this kind of cute, sweet place where all these animals were like almost like joining in song with old MacDonald about how lovely
all
their
happy,
life was.
prancing around the fields, living in the barn, having a lovely old time.
Yeah, and then you sort of so why wouldn't you until you told otherwise, and then every lorry that drives past has got that image, and bottles of milk have got it printed on the label that's here's the fields and the cows, and
it's on the sides of everything, all products.
and there's years ago I used to work in a supermarket setting in my younger day, and there was many an advert of a smiling farmer. This is Andy. Andy's been farming the cows in blah 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 East Sussex for 35 years, and
4 generations.
he keeps his cows happy by systematically raping them. And
Did it actually say that?
No, it didn't.
Instead of the milk.
They didn't have. They didn't have that. He removes their young with only 24 hours time spent with their mother. Like
Steals their food.
But there was all of that there. These idyllic images and these wonderful stories that why would you question it? And then the food pyramid
That you've had since literally preschool, when you were given glasses of milk with your apple in the afternoons.
Yeah.
So you're told that you need to drink your milk because it's good for you. and it makes you healthy.
The whole concept.
Literally from Arthur's age is when I started.
The
Probably
milk
before
monitor.
that. Well, before that, since I was old enough, I was 1. From the age of 1, you can have cow's milk.
Yeah.
So from that point,
the concept of the milk monitor.
milk monitor in schools, yeah.
Like it was a privilege to be the milk monitor.
Yeah.
And dish out the milk. And I remember actually, we had, I don't know, maybe this was the school I went to, but we had, I never actually liked it because it had like a layer on top, which I always thought was...
Whole milk.
Yeah, like a cream.
Full fat milk.
Yeah, like was it gold top?
Yeah, well, silver top. That's what it was down in my...
Was it silver top?
In grandma's
You know,
house.
in the days of, like, people who don't know what we're talking about, I think it's ridiculous.
Milk deliveries.
But when you had glass milk bottles outside,
Yeah.
and do you ever have birds like peck the?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's irrelevant. That's an aside. But through
the foil lids.
Yeah, through the foil lids.
Get the cream.
That milk was gross, I thought, because it was like they had this lumpy. Oh, I thought it was disgusting. But anyway, I do remember there was a kid. His name was Raymond Bell. Right. Why you laugh
Sorry.
at Bell?
Unfortunate name.
Ridiculous.
I'm a child.
He
I'm
was
sorry.
lovely, Ray.
I'm sure he was.
I don't think we called him Ray either because you don't call.
Oh, You're calling him Raymond. Or it was a full
Well,
name, Raymond Bell.
Well, he was like 6, so or when you were 4, 5, 6, that sort of age.
Yeah, you didn't shorten
You
names.
don't call anyone Ray, do you?
Not really.
There's no Ray.
Well, no. He probably is Ray now.
I'm sure he is Ray now, but
Back in the day, it's Raymond. I went to school with a Ray, but with a W at the beginning.
Oh yeah, we're Ray.
Well, Ray.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, Ray, he was lactose intolerant at the time. It turns out he just wasn't a cow, so it wasn't. Yeah, but he was lactose intolerant. And I remember everyone thought he was weird because he had to have a glass of water. So when the milk monitor
Weirdo.
brought the tray, I know it's insane when you think about it. But the milk monitor brought the tray up. I was never trusted to be the milk monitor because you got to be responsible and not throw the milk everywhere and stuff. But kid would bring the milk tray, everyone would rush up, and everyone would it's Ray's water like this. Yeah. There's just the notion that he has to drink this. I didn't even like the milk, so I don't know why I had a.
What, you didn't like milk? Oh no, because it was the
like
weird
this
creamy milk.
milk stuff that we were.
But you'd rather drink that than water, for crying out
I
loud.
know it's insane. So like I would have preferred what he had, but there was somehow even then a deeply ingrained notion that it would be odd.
He was the odd one out.
He was
and also
odd.
all your peers are drinking milk, so also you want to be included.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be seen as weird Raymond Bell.
Yeah.
And you told by your teachers and by your parents and everybody in authority in your
strong.
life that it makes you strong, makes your bones strong, makes you grow up strong.
Yeah.
Strong, especially if you're a boy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there was a whole campaign, wasn't there? The milk industry was it was starting to get concerned because there'd been a lot of research into the fact that dairy was no good for you. And I think there's like a little Steve Jobs video where he's talking about marketing in general,
Yes.
and he talks
Yeah.
about this particular
Seen that.
campaign. But he's sort of talks about the fact that worried that their product had been exposed basically as not healthy. That they came up with this Got Milk campaign, and there was nothing. It didn't even talk about the product. It just showed attractive-looking people, men and women,
Drinking milk.
chucking milk all over themselves. Half the time when I'm drinking it was just like, they had a milk moustache, or they chucked it over themselves, or they were drinking
Wasting milk. That's even better.
it. Wasting milk. Yeah, just the height of oddness. It's just so odd, isn't it? Like
It is. It's just the more
the
you
food of a young calf
the more
being
you think about it.
thrown over
It's
your
like
face.
me giving my breast milk that I gave to Arthur to a calf.
Yeah, which would be odd. And
Is
then,
that a bit too personal?
well, no, it would be odd. I mean, imagine you cooking it up into a clotted version, and
then
then
selling it to cows.
selling it to cows and depriving Arthur of it.
And then Arthur just has to have...
Sorry, Arthur, I've got a thriving clotted cream business here. I'm not
Yeah,
not
I'm not
giving
giving it
you
to
any.
you.
You can have some water with Raymond.
Yeah.
Like,
Go and sit with Raymond.
you would, it'd just be odd. But yeah, from a young age, that stuff is is put into your brain, whether it's that Got Milk campaign or school or weird Rodders books and whatever. So why would you question it?
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to your brother, who, for people who don't know, which would be everybody who's listening to this, is a teacher.
Primary school.
Yeah, primary school teacher. And we were talking about the food pyramid and how it's something that's, I think what did he refer to it now? They talk about something slightly different than the food pyramid, like the teacher would on this, who was listening, would correct me here, but like the balanced plate or something, and how how it's
portioned up.
Yeah, they give like kids a paper plate or something, and they get them to draw on the plate like in percentages or like a pie chart of how much of their plate should be
protein, carbs
devoted to each thing. But it's still very much the same mindset. It's like, here's the protein. The protein sources are fish and chicken and the occasional bit of red meat and eggs, and obviously milk if you're going to drink something. And then your carbs are like vegetable based, and then you got the rest of your sort of, all of your micronutrients apparently are covered by like peas or something.
Yeah,
like,
much.
Which is bonkers in itself. But it still exists very much today, which is crazy. So all of that troubles me slightly. At what point does
the point he goes to school is constantly on my mind, because I don't know how that's going to work, because it's not going to be anywhere. It's not the same situation as nursery. We don't have that much control.
And does he then become the sort of misfit kid? Because
does he become Raymond Bell?
Well, does he become Raymond Bell? Who turns out was a pioneer. But if you, I can just imagine that playing forward, that conversation. Teachers like, right, we're looking at balanced plates today, and we're going to divide the plate into thirds, and here's your protein sources. And unless education's changed and Laura Chepner's been brought into that school to sort it out and all the rest of it, let's hope so.
Or we have to move to a school where she has been
brought in. But unless that's changed, he's going to do one or two things, isn't he? He's either going to quietly sort of say nothing, ignore it, and
I'm hoping,
or come home, or he's going to be the
kid that raises his hand and goes, hang on a minute, and questions it and says, well, I don't eat any of that stuff, and I'm fit and healthy, and I'm fine, and
then how I'm
hoping he'll be that kid,
almost at that really young age, his ability to convince a classroom of kids and have enough sort of social credibility that they don't shoot him down, which is insane amounts of, I mean, he wouldn't see it as that pressure, but that would be the pressure that was there.
Yeah.
That's bonkers. Like,
I worry every day about how he's going to be accepted into school and how he's going to be treated.
Scares me that he's got to go through that.
I know, alone.
But then,
I can't be there with him all the time to answer those questions and deflect.
But then I don't want him to eat animal products to not have that difficulty, because it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. And I want him to know that is the right decision. But we've talked about the fact that at some points he will be with his friends, who will be at a party, who will be at school, and he'll be either curious or won't have the choice or won't be given an option to eat anything but a sausage, a pork sausage, or a chicken nugget. And he will want to try it because everybody else is eating it. And he doesn't want to look like the odd one out. He doesn't want to look like the awkward kid. And he wants to be included, as kids do. And so he'll eat it. And we've talked about how we would feel about that. And I'm of an opinion, I think similar to one of your guests, who said, if that's the case, it's not the end of the world. But I like to think, and I hope that he would have enough knowledge, information from us at that point that he can maybe question it at least. And I think Tina actually was one who said that her children, who are pretty young, as far as I can remember, have told kids not to eat Haribo. Well, they don't eat Haribo sweets, for example, because they know that they've got gelatin and animal parts in them. And they've told other children that and said that you shouldn't eat those because they're made of animals. And then the other kids are like, what? And then obviously their parents have come along and gone, what are you telling my kids? And I'd happily go the truth, actually. So, you know, and is it a bad thing that your kids don't want to eat some sweets? Like, you know, so
yeah, it's weird. Isn't
it's like, I'm hoping he's going to be, well, you keep saying he's going to be the next John Connor. He's going to be start the next revolution. So I'm hoping he's going to be that kid, and he's going to have the confidence. I don't want him to be like, so it's going to be difficult to get the balance, because I haven't got the balance right yet. I want to tell everybody about it, and I want everybody to be a vegan, because it's the only way forward for health, for the climate, for the environment, for the planet, for animals, for everything. But I'm not that type of person, and I don't have the outlet for it, and I haven't found it anywhere yet. But I also, I'm very much one of those people who just want people to like me. Like I don't want to be the person that causes controversy or makes other people uncomfortable, even in a situation where I am already uncomfortable. And I don't want to be seen like someone who's, you know, preaching. And I step back sometimes. I stop myself and go, I've been talking about this too much. If I've been talking about veganism with people, as I feel like, they're going to get annoyed with this in a minute. And I want them to be a balance for him. I want him to be able to find that. But I worry that if I can't find that for myself, how am I going to help him find that balance between wanting to sort of promote that in what he's doing, stick to his guns and his ethics and you know, things, and remember the things that we've told him. But I also don't want him to not have any friends. This might sound a bit extreme. I don't want him to be the one that they don't invite to stuff, and they think, you know, there's no invite him to McDonald's or wherever, or invite him out for a meal, because he's just not going to eat what we're going to eat. But by then, I mean, that is still 2 years away. And if you think about how much has happened in the last 3, I mean, huge amounts, like leaps and bounds amount of change. So I'm hoping by the time he gets to school, and depending on which school we choose, we might be able to have those conversations, and they might be a bit more open. They might have the facilities and, you know, the access to that sort of stuff way more than definitely we had.
Well, going back to the beginning, I think, like you said, there might only be 2 vegans in your workplace, but loads of people have said to you, they know what it is.
Yeah.
They have watched Game Changers or Cowspiracy, or they've seen something.
They've heard of it.
They've heard of someone.
Whereas 4 years ago, I didn't even know what a vegan was.
They've heard of Bosch Brothers or Deliciously Ella. Or, you know, those things are in the popular sort of psyche at the moment. And I imagine that's, you know, I think that's only going to grow. I mean, one of my favourite podcasts, Mark Maron, for example. Mm-hmm. And the last, you know, there's always a sponsored thing on every podcast. Anyway, there's a massive ice cream company that he is advertising for right now. Mm. And the whole premise of the argument of the advert is their plant-based ice cream range.
Really?
And it says the word vegan 2 or 3 times. It's like, these ice creams are perfect for vegans and people who are transitioning to a more plant-based life. And it even says, you know, we all know that the reasons to eat more plant-based are many and varied, and it's not only good for you but the planet, and talks about how it's made from sunflower butter and all this sort of stuff.
Amazing.
And I think that same podcast, I mean, I'm not saying he's now exclusively, you know, Mark Maron's exclusively selling vegan products, but I remember there being an advert whilst we were vegan, since we've been vegan, that was advertising some like meat delivery company that shipped straight from the farm to your door, sort of thing. So it's interesting that, you know, that is an advert that a big company like that feels is ready, the audience is ready to hear that, and isn't going to go, I'm not listening to what. That's it. I'm not buying any of your stuff now.
Yeah.
I mean, we could debate, and we won't have time to, but we could debate whether it's right and the capitalist influence over veganism and all that sort of stuff, and you can argue that one or two ways and all the rest of it, and many other ways. But I suppose ultimately, I guess where I'm coming from is it's in the public psyche. Even in that 3 years, it's growing. To your point, 2 years' time, 3 years' time, it will have even more so. So even if it's 1% to, I don't know, in our wildest estimations, I'm reluctant to say 10%, but if it was 5% of people or 3% of people.
We'll go with 3. 3 seems like a considered estimate.
3 out of 100 kids in a school.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I hope that would influence some change.
Maybe they need to accommodate. And, at that point, even then, parents have heard the adverts, they've watched they've seen the documentaries, and even if they're not vegan, and so his at least his navigation of the world is easier.
Yeah.
And then he can find his paths of activism, amongst that, whatever they may be, whether he chooses to be confrontational, vocal,
very radical,
or tries to the sales pitch, or wants to do it subtly and gently. Whichever way, I think all of it works to some extent. But let's hope so.
Well, yeah, I hope he will be. I get asked a lot. It's like, what if when he's 18? The question I get asked all the time. What if he's 18, turns around and says, I don't really want to be vegan? I'm like, well, I'm not an awful parent. I'm not going to force him into doing something he wants to do. Before that point, I'm expecting him to turn around and question the whole thing.
Totally.
He's not going to get to 18, for crying out loud, and question why we eat differently to everybody else. And I want him to question it, because that's a way in to explain why. I want him to be curious. But let's hope he continues after he's had that conversation and asked those questions. I hope he does continue to be vegan. He's been vegan since, forever, his entire life.
Yeah.
Since before I even conceived him. So I would like it to continue, but eventually it will have to be his decision.
Yeah, totally.
We can do all we can do.
Yeah.
But it would be nice for him to have some vegan peers by that point, because that would help.
I'm sure.
So to all my friends who are on the precipice, there's a few of you out there. Can you please just make the final step? Because it would be really nice to have some people to talk about this with, where I don't feel like I'm annoying people.
Sounds like a good place to leave it.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
That's it.
I'm going to carry on talking to you, just not recording it. Okay. Bye.
Bye then.